Thiopental is an intravenous anesthetic used for the induction of anesthesia. It is a particularly high-yield drug to know because of its specific pharmacodynamic properties. But not to worry, in this video, I'll give you my visual mnemonic to help you remember everything you need to know about thiopental. Warm summer air? Sizzling meat on the grill? This can only mean one thing: a barbecue. Oh no, it looks like our amateur grill master over there has gotten some of his award-winning sauce all over that nice clean shirt. What a slob. Luckily, it looks like his friend thought ahead and brought out a trusty Tide pen. What a guy. You know, now that I think about it, Tide pen kind of sounds like thiopental, don't you think? From now on, every time you hear thiopental, think Tide pen to anchor you to this scene. Now we'll talk more about our Tide pen in a moment. But first, let's back up and look at the scene of this barbecue. The food must be really good this year. Check out that old man who has passed out. He's even sleeping through all this Tide pen commotion. Guy must have downed a bit too much barbecue and now he's in a food coma. By the way, let this man's food coma remind you of the CNS depression caused by thiopental. This really should be obvious because, as we've already mentioned, thiopental is used to induce anesthesia. So how does thiopental exert its effects anyway? Well, the answer is obvious, really. It's barbecue. And by barbecue, I really mean barbecue as a symbol for barbiturates. Because barbecue sounds like barbiturates. It's the barbecue barbiturates. You see, thiopental belongs to the class of drugs known as barbiturates. These drugs work by activating the GABA channels in the brain, increasing the duration that the chloride channels remain open. You may recognize phenobarbital or other medications with barbitol in their name as members of this group. And thanks to the barbecue here, you'll never forget to include thiopental in that list of barbiturates. Alright, now that we've set the scene, let's go back to our Tide pen savior. Our Tide pen guy knows that there is no time to lose when it comes to stains. I mean, a stain can set in within minutes, right? Just check out how quickly he is running to his friend's aid. This should remind you of the rapid onset of action of thiopental. You see, just like our fast-acting Tide pen, thiopental works fast, with an onset within minutes. However, the effects of thiopental are short as well, often lasting only 5 to 10 minutes. This explains why thiopental is used to induce or begin anesthesia, while other drugs are used to maintain the unconscious state. To understand why thiopental works so quickly, we need to introduce our next symbol. As a barbecue aficionado myself, one of the most important elements of good barbecue is using enough butter to keep the meat perfectly tender. It looks like our grill master is already doing this by adding butter to his steaks. Just look at that huge block of butter, melting right into the meat. Let the butter mixing into the meat remind you of the high lipid solubility of thiopental. Because high lipid solubility just means that thiopental dissolves easily in fat, kind of like how our barbecue is mixing easily with the fatty butter. Clinically, this is important because anesthetics must dissolve through lipid membranes in order to work, especially at the blood-brain barrier. Since thiopental has high lipid solubility, this means that the drug can quickly dissolve through membranes into the brain, where it exerts its anesthetic effects. This is in part why thiopental is so fast-acting. On the flip side, this high lipid solubility also means that thiopental quickly dissolves into muscle and fat. Since there's a lot more muscle and fat than brain tissue, highly lipid-soluble drugs will redistribute from the brain into other tissues over time. Functionally, this means that thiopental is fast on and fast off due to rapid entry into the brain, followed by rapid drug redistribution. Again, all of this is due to thiopental's high lipid solubility. Alright, before we close out, we should briefly mention one of thiopental's other effects. Our guy was running so fast, he must have knocked over that fan. What summer barbecue doesn't have a fan? Let this knocked over fan remind you of the respiratory depression that is seen with thiopental use. because fans move air just like the lungs, right? Thiopental is thought to decrease respiratory rate and tidal volume through its actions on medullary centers that control breathing. While other effects like bradycardia and hypotension may also be seen, the most important effect of thiopental beyond sedation is respiratory depression. Ventilatory support and oxygen may even be necessary to manage respiratory depression. Just remember our knocked over fan to peg this fact on test day. That just about does it for this scene. Let's wrap up. Remember that thiopental is a super short-acting barbiturate, mostly used for the induction of anesthesia. Its high lipid solubility allows for a rapid onset, but also a short duration of activity as the thiopental is redistributed from the brain into the muscle and fat. Thiopental has notable side effects such as respiratory and CNS depression. And with that, it's time to clean up this barbecue, and someone should probably wake that old man up.